What's up, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to another episode of Shooting the Shit Uncensored. And today I am blessed to have an amazing guest in Sunny Beach who's going to come on in just a few moments. But before we get started, I have to take a moment to plug our sponsors who help keep the lights on here in the Shooting the Shit studio. First up is A-Rock Designs. Now, A-Rock Designs make the best custom cups, hoodies, keychains, you name it, they make it. You see them around in all the wrestling groups. They make all these great custom wrestling cups. They made me this amazing CM Punk cup, which I absolutely love. They do stuff not just wrestling related. They made my kids some amazing cups as well, and we all love them here. Next is Signal Studios. So Signal Studios is a recording studio based in Sydney, Australia. They are the absolute best at what they do. If you're a professional wrestler, you need some new entrance music, you can hit up my boy Rafi Tomasian at Signal Studios, and he will be able to make you a track, put it all together, master it, and send it straight off to you, and you'll be able to use it. Or if you're in the Sydney area, you're a musician, you need a place to rehearse, they have the most comfortable rehearsal space there is. You can sit back, you can relax, you can get your music done the best way that you can, and it's an absolutely beautiful spot. Guys, also, if you'd like to support this show just that little bit more as well, you can head over to our Pro Wrestling Tees store. That's prowrestlingtees.com/MWA World, and you can pick up some of our amazing shirts like this show shirt, Shooting the Shit Uncensored, 2020 Wrestling, MWA Black and Silver, and our anime shirt for a bit of fun. But guys, without further ado, I'm going to bring out the man himself. This is former UWF Television Champion. He is a legend. Please welcome Sunny Beach. Sunny, what's going on, my man? Thank you for coming.
Good evening, Piers. Thank you for having me.
It's an absolute pleasure. It is an absolute pleasure. How's everything going, man? You're tearing it up this evening. You're actually at a party before we went live.
My friends just turned 55, and we're at a big birthday party for them. And trying to find a quiet place to do an interview is almost non-existent here. We're in Long Island, New York.
Oh man, that's awesome. And how's everything been for you, man? Like it's been a crazy time in the world with all this COVID stuff going on. Has it impacted you much where you are?
Yeah, I own a security business up here in New York, and my business is down about 85% right now, and hopefully it'll pick up after the COVID's over. But it's affecting everybody up here in United States and all over the world.
Yeah, it definitely is. It's a crazy time that the world we live in right now. But you mentioned that you own a security firm. I actually come from a security background myself. How long have you been doing that for?
I've been doing it since I retired from wrestling. I started up my business in 1999, and I retired from wrestling in 2000. So right before I got out of wrestling, I started my own security company.
Nice. And I suppose going from wrestling to something else, you really needed something that was going to, really challenge that mind. Obviously wrestling can be, one of those things where it's quite challenging physically and mentally. So I can imagine, going into something in the world of security was kind of like the way for you to progress in your next step of your life and your career, correct?
Well, yeah. When I wasn't wrestling, I was doing bodyguard work and bouncing at nightclubs and stuff like that. So security kind of, came second nature to me. And then, you can't wrestle forever. And there's only a handful of guys that really make the big money in professional wrestling. So I had to set my family up for success, and I wanted to support my family the right way. And I made great money when I wrestled. I wrestled, the WWF, UWF, All Japan Pro Wrestling. So every territory I went to, I made decent money. And the thing is, a lot of these guys, they don't look at it. You're supposed to make money when you wrestle. You're not just doing it to get a belt or for your ego or a big head. This is how you feed your family. This is how you got to look at it like a job, and you're working, and you got to keep working. And there's only a handful of people in the wrestling business that have worked continuously for 15, 20 years, 25 years. Greg Valentine's still out there hustling. Barry Horowitz. There's a ton of guys still out there wrestling. Some of them shouldn't be. Tony Atlas, he's like 66 years old, and I seen him right before COVID. We did an autograph show together, and he says he still gets in the ring once in a while. And and it's
That's
pretty
crazy.
dangerous too. If you're not wrestling every week, and you're susceptible for heart attacks or really getting hurt, and injured. Your bones can't take it after a certain age either. Getting slammed around and jarred, and your body just it's your body's not meant to take that much punishment.
Oh, absolutely. It's there's only a certain amount of time. That's why guys have retirement times. It's the same with footballers or anyone who's involved in any sort of physical contact. It wears your body down over a period of time. And wrestling, as much as you guys were doing back in those days as well, where countless slams day in day out, plus being in the road and jammed into a car and going to the next town to the next. It gets to like all that comes into factors of how that can affect your body and your later stages in life past post wrestling. But
Piers, we would wrestle, out of 1 month, 30 days, we'd wrestle maybe sometimes 26, 27, 28 days a month. You'd have like 2 weeks on, we're wrestling every day for 14, 15 days. Then you go home, you get 2 days off, 3 days off. Then you go back out on the road another 14, 15 days. So your body doesn't have time to recuperate or mend. You just have time to go home, do your laundry, pay some bills, and go back out there on the road. And that's what you were doing, living for years and years. It wasn't just like 3 or 4 months. It was you would get burnt out.
yeah, and it's crazy to think because besides wrestling and going through that, and people compare taking a wrestling match to being involved in a small car accident or a small collision, and getting into that sort of lifestyle as well. You take into consideration the other parts of not just bumping, but working out, going doing the signings and the promoting and everything like that. It's not just rock up, have a 15-minute match, and you're on your way though.
Yeah, I mean, you got to get up, you got to get to the town, you got to go to the gym, you got to, get prepared for the matches. And you're usually at the arena 2 hours before the matches even start. If the matches start at 8, bell time at 8 p.m. or 7 p.m., you get there at 5 o'clock in the afternoon, and you're waiting, you're dressed, you're ready to go, going over your matches, the finishes, whatever you might have to do. And then you got to wait till usually the end of the show when everybody leaves. So you're there from anywhere from 5 p.m. to like 11, 12 o'clock at night by the time you're walking out of the arena. Then you got to go get something to eat, go back to your hotel, try to get a couple hours sleep. Sometimes you would have an early morning flight, 5, 6 o'clock in the morning to fly to another town. Or sometimes you'd have to drive 200-300 miles to get to the next town, depending on where, the booking sheet was and wherever you were booked the next day. So it was, pretty stressful, and you were definitely earning your money.
Jeez. And when did you actually break into wrestling, and who trained you?
1985. I broke into Jacksonville, Florida. There was a guy named Mike Prather, Mike Thor. He wrestled a lot with the NWA, and he was enhancement talent for TBS, Championship Wrestling from Georgia. He worked a lot down in Tampa, Championship Wrestling from Florida. He broke me into business. The guy Jimmy Del Rey, Jimmy Backlund. He was the first person I had a match with.
Oh wow.
Don Curtis. I don't know if you remember Don Curtis and Mark
Yeah.
Moon. But Don Curtis, his daughter, Lisa Curtis, we went to high school together. So I was always picking his brain and telling him I always wanted to wrestle. He would always tell me, get an education, go to college, if you really want to wrestle and you after college, I'll set you in the right direction. And that's what he did. He set me up to championship wrestling from Florida. I had a couple of dark matches. I was just enhancement talent down there. I was paying my dues. I started Tampa, and I think it was June 1985, if I'm not mistaken. And I
Wow.
wrestled there for a couple of years. I went to Peach State Wrestling after that. Americus, Georgia, Valdosta, Georgia. Wrestling number 2 was there. Dutch Mantel, the Oates brothers, Chick Donovan, Abdul the Butcher, Nightmare Ted Allen, Tony Atlas was there. I mean, Jerry Blackwell. We had a great array of talent down there. Ray Camp.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it was like old Georgia Championship Wrestling back when we were there. But it was a really great thing. And then I wrestled in Valdosta a little bit. There was a promoter, Grady Odom, down there. He had a little TV station down there that he was filming live matches with. The Samoans would drive in from Pensacola, Florida, Tonga Kid. Virgil, back then he was Mike Jones. He was going as a Terminator gimmick. We had some really good talent there, too. So I broke in down in the South, Jacksonville, uh, a lot down Plant City, Florida, Orlando, wherever I could find shows. Working Outlaw. Back then it was called Outlaw. Against the promotion. But I paid my dues, worked there, started Southern Championship Wrestling, and I got discovered, I guess, with WWF up there. They put me in the movie No Holds Barred in '88 with Hulk Hogan, and I was in the fight scene with Joe LeDuc, one of the first fight scenes in the Octagon Bar. I was one of the short headbangers. And me, Stan Hansen, Tiny Lister, we all filmed our scenes up in Atlanta, Georgia. So I've got to become very good friends with Stan Hansen, and he got me booked in Japan later years, a couple of years after the movie. And
Yeah.
I keep in touch to him to this day. So,
Oh, that's awesome. But breaking into wrestling in 84, 85, kayfabe is pretty much alive and well.
oh, yeah. And you
You
still
know,
had
did
territories back then. You could still go anywhere in the country. You had Portland, Oregon. You had AWA. You had the Von Erichs out in Texas. You had California wrestling. You had Tennessee, Jerry Lawler. Um, the Ganyas in Chicago and Minneapolis, and they had it all locked down. And Vince was up in New York, and you could go up to Stu Hart up in Calgary. I mean, you still had a lot of territories. Georgia Championship, Continental Wrestling, the Fullers and the Armstrongs in Alabama. Then you had Florida Championship. I mean, it was a great place to learn back then. And I used to have to set up the rings, break the rings down when I was first starting out. So I got to pay dues. And a lot of guys today don't even know what dues is. All they know about is high spots, high spot, high spot. False finish, false finish, false finish. And I can't hardly even watch wrestling these days because some of the stuff I see is just ridiculous out there.
yeah, and breaking into wrestling, how hard did you find it just to get in the door to start training? Was that sort of like a task on itself to sort of get in, or did you find that that you were able to sort of find someone that was able to get you in the door and get you sort of going?
Well, I'm a pretty big guy, so I got a foot in the door. Plus, I wrestled amateur in high school and a little bit of college. So I was all state in Florida for a 190, 220 weight class, um, like a heavyweight. And then
Yep.
I wrestled freestyle a lot. I did a couple, USA qualifier tournaments. I got second place in Orlando Open after I finished high school. I qualified for the Nationals in Lock Haven, Pennsylvania. So, I had a good amateur background, a shooting background. So and I picked it up really easy with the wrestling because I knew a lot of moves. And I've been watching, Dusty Rhodes, Briscoe Brothers and stuff since I was in elementary school. So I always wanted to be a wrestler. I was, I had the bug. I was ate up with it. It was like, when you want something so bad, like you want to be a policeman, a fireman, a football player, a
Yep.
doctor, you know what your life's past going to be. So I either wanted to be a policeman or a wrestler. And I got to become a wrestler.
Yeah, right. And you mentioned like obviously going and being in the No Holds Barred movie with Hulk Hogan, uh, and getting into that position. So can you explain how you sort of that all came about? How did you get offered to be in that movie?
Well, it was really weird. I was wrestling with Southern Championship Wrestling up in Atlanta, Georgia. Jerry Blackwell and Buck Robley were promoting up there, and Bruiser Brody was in there. I mean, they had a great array of talent. Dick Slater was up there, Abdul the Butcher, Rock and Roll Express, um, Mr. Wrestle number two, myself, Ray Lloyd Glacier. He was breaking in. I got Ray Lloyd in the business down in Valdosta, Georgia. He was playing football at Valdosta. I got him to be an extra in the movie No Holds Barred with us, and he got to meet Stan and Hogan and all the guys. So, and then he went up there and he, tried out for WCW, and he got a push with Eric Bischoff and Diamond Dallas Page and those guys. So they gave him the Glacier gimmick. When they had Mortis and all these characters that were coming out, and all that Wrath and all that, like futuristic, like comic book characters, like superhero type people they made in the wrestling gimmicks.
Yeah.
So that's how Glacier got his, really push and start with WCW. But I got a call from Pat Patterson saying that they were interested in me being in the movie. They wanted me to be in a fight scene. And after the movie, they wanted me to start full time with the WWF, go out on the road. So I said, yeah, right. This is Pat Patterson calling me. And I don't know, I've never had a push or never got over in any territories. I was just up and coming guy. They go, that's the thing. You're different. You got a great look to you. You're a natural heel, and we want you to come work for us. So I said, okay. It was weird because I didn't believe him at first. So I took down his phone number. He goes, if you don't believe me, take down my number and call me back. I said, not that I don't believe you, but people always, are joking around in the wrestling business and pulling ribs on you and stuff. And I thought somebody was ribbing me. So I said, yeah, this is Pat Patterson. Yeah, right. So I hung up on him. I called him back. Titan Sports, how could I help you? I said, oh, God. I apologized for about 5 minutes to him. I'm so sorry, Mr. Patterson. I didn't believe you. He goes, it happens all the time. Don't worry about it, kid, he said. So they sent me a first-class plane ticket from Jacksonville to Atlanta. They put me up in first-class accommodations. I was there for a week and a half doing my fight scene in the movie and working out at the gym with Hogan and Zeus and Stan Hansen and everybody. Stan Hansen actually took me to my first sushi restaurant up in Atlanta, Georgia. Never had sushi in my life, and he introduced me to sushi. So
Stan
thanks,
Hansen
Stan.
doesn't seem Stan Hansen doesn't seem like a sushi guy, man.
Believe it or not, Stan is one of the nicest people I've ever met. He's a great guy, and if he likes you, he likes you. If he don't like you, he'll let you know that too. So
Yeah.
he's just a great guy, and I learned a lot from Stan. And he took a liking to me, and he mentored me a little bit. And he brought me into Japan, where me and Johnny Ace tagged a little bit over there in 1991, the tag league tournament, and then he brought me back in '92, and me and Del Wilkes, the Patriot, tagged over there the second time. So we had some great matches there, and I enjoyed the time I was in All Japan Pro Wrestling.
Yeah, I mean, it's such an amazing story that how you've sort of like come up through the ranks, though. Like from, it's almost like every young wrestler's dream. Oh, come in, you'll be in a movie with the biggest name in professional wrestling, Hulk Hogan, and then we're gonna, then you're gonna come on the road with it.
I mean, when I first met him, I was like in awe. I looked up at him. I said, "Wow." He goes, "How you doing, brother, Hulk Hogan?" I said, "Sandy." Back then, I was Sandy Beach. I said, "Hey, Sandy Beach." He goes, "Sandy Beach. There's a guy in Tampa named Sandy Beach." I go, "It's not me." He goes, "Yeah, I know. We don't like him." The other guy. Because maybe you should change your name. And I said, "Yeah, maybe." So. But eventually, I did have to change my name because the guy down in Tampa had the name trademarked as a DJ, and he says that I was giving him bad publicity because I was losing on WWF TV every week, so he was losing job opportunities. So I had to change my name from Sandy Beach to Sunny Beach, and I got that
Wow.
trademarked, and I own the name and the rights and everything else now.
Yeah, right. And back then, like in WWF, it was like you it's not like today where it's like, okay, this is your character, this is who you are, this is the person you are, this is the promo that you're gonna deliver. Back then it was like when you go to WWF, you went as like you had your character, you had your timing, you had your craft really honed in to be able to perform at that level. It wasn't like I think that they probably had like maybe a couple of guys that when they had an idea, hey, got this idea for a gimmick, but mainly it was guys coming in, correct?
Yeah, I mean, I was so nervous. The first couple of matches, they would put me like with Lanny Poffo to do a little, I'd be with him for like a week or two, do same matches in different towns every night. And then they put me with Cowboy Scott Casey for a little program. Then I worked a little bit with SD Jones. And, so they were putting me with, seasoned veterans so I could pick up, the craft because I never really wrestled a lot of full time stuff. I would wrestle, basically weekend stuff, maybe Friday, Saturday, and Sundays. And then, I'd work my day job during the week, and then I'd go wrestle Florida, Georgia, wherever they want me, Alabama. So I was trying to get bookings. I was sending my pictures out to different promoters, sending tapes. Back then, that's what you had to do to try to get recognized, or somebody would put a good word in for you if you had an in with somebody, or if you knew a promoter, or one of the older guys that broke you into business would call on your behalf and say, "Hey, you need a heel, or you need this guy, or could you bring this guy in for a couple of weeks or a month or two?" So that's what they were trying to do with me up in Atlanta with Southern Championship. They broke me and Jerry Blackwell, let me work up there pretty much full time. And then I started, WWF right after No Holds Barred. So I think I started in August of '88 with WWF.
Yeah, amazing. Jesus, that's incredible. And that was a good 2-year run, correct? Like you were there for 2-3 years.
2 year run. I was pretty steady for about a year and a half, and then that was like they would call me up if somebody got hurt, I would fill in, or after the second year, then they sent me over to Calgary for Stu Hart. I was up there for a little over a month and a half. They were going to tag me and Brian Pillman together up there when Brian came back.
Oh wow.
Never worked out. I had some great matches with Chris Benoit up there. The Power Twins were up there. Randy Coley, one of the Moondogs, was there when I was there. Muck and Singh. Larry Cameron was there. We had a lot of good talent up there. Steve DeSalvo was up there. They had some really good talent. Who else was up there? There was a couple other guys there. The Bulldogs would come in and out once in a while. I'm trying to think. There was another pretty good name guy that was up there. That was really Steve Blackman. He was up
Yeah.
back then when he was in Calgary too. So that was before he got his break with WWF.
Yeah, right. And that's the thing, in Canada, I mean, it's such the infamous Hart family and obviously Stampede Wrestling. And, did the time that you actually spent up there, did you get much time around the Hart family?
I spent a little bit of time there. I was in the gym up there. Well, one of the Hart's brother-in-laws owns a gym up there. And I would stay there. And we stayed at the York Hotel, infamous hotel for all the boys. You pay like $400 for the weekly stay up there, and then on the bottom floor in the basement there was a strip club. So all the boys, they would go and wrestle, and then they go back and go to the strip club, drink beer, and spend all their money on the girls. So it was pretty funny. I mean, I stayed up there for 6 weeks. It was way too cold for a guy from Jacksonville, Florida, to be up in Calgary in the middle of the winter. I was up there like in February, March of I think it was 89 or 90. They sent me there for like 2 months. And I didn't even last 6 weeks. The vans kept breaking down. They would get frozen up. I had to take a couple Greyhound buses back from Edmonton and Regina or Red Deer one time. So I just got tired of, the conditions up there, And when I went up there, I didn't really have any winter clothing. I had, a winter jacket. And it was like 30 below zero. I had some long johns, and it didn't really help. I mean, I was frozen to death. I mean, a guy from Florida that lives on the beach doesn't really like the cold weather like that.
Yeah, man. I'm from Australia, man, and we're in the middle of winter here, and it is freezing, and I hate it.
It was a good time, and they warned me about going to the Hart's house, and they warned me about going to their dungeon.
And did you end up going down into the dungeon?
I just, I live in Long Island, and we get some pretty cold winters up here too, and I never went to the dungeon, thank God. And Owen, I was good friends with Owen too. He warned me about it. He goes, if they ever try to get you in a dungeon, don't go. He says, tell them you're not feeling good or make up any story, but don't go down there, he said. So I said, all right. So, Owen actually helped me get booked over there too with the Hearts in Calgary.
And how long were you, did you end up going down into the dungeon and did Stu give you a little bit of a stretch?
I went to their house one time, but I never went in the dungeon. So they warned me about it, and I think I was too smart, and they knew I was too smart, to go down there. Because I've heard stories, like superstar Billy Graham, he was, they put him in a sugar hold, or, they all right, yeah, Stu would go, hey, yeah, big bastard, yeah, get down on your fours and, assume the position. So you get your wrestling stance, like a freestyle wrestling stance,
Yeah.
And then they would, all right, give me your arm, put your arm behind your back. Then you put your arm behind your back. Then he puts you in like a half Nelson or a Nelson and just crank your arm out of socket, So they were notorious for doing crazy stuff like that down in the basement. So I was forewarned way in advance not to go down there.
Oh man, that is like, like you've heard all the stories of Stu Hunt. Hey, just give me your arm there, pal, and
he'd come up to you, and every time he'd see me, he'd poke my arm. Oh, you big bastard, you big bastard, you. And, I was like, hey, Stu, hi, Mr. Hart, how you doing? I would always call Mr. Hart. I wouldn't call him Stu. I was brought up down south, so I always gave everybody respect. Like Vince McMahon, I always called him Mr. McMahon. Call me Vince. Okay, Mr. McMahon, and call me Vince, and I'm like, okay, Mr. McMahon. So, he goes, you're too polite. He goes, I don't know if you're going to make it in this business. You're probably one of the most politest persons I've ever met. I said, well, thank you, Mr. McMahon. And, he just, I kept killing him with kindness, but, he was very nice. And, the good thing about the WWF when I was there, they were doing a ton of stuff for charities. And Hulk Hogan, bless his heart, they would run him ragged. He was on, talk shows, on the major networks. He was running around promoting the shows. He was doing, house shows. And then he still had time to go to these hospitals and visit handicapped children and make Make-A-Wish foundations and stuff like that. And most of the guys with the WWF would do that. And, when people talk about, Vince and, the Federation and all that, and, he's money hungry, he's this, he's that. He's one of the only people that I know that gives back 365 days a year. They could talk all the bad about him, how he ruined the wrestling or, kayfabe and all that stuff, or he bought up all the territories and did everything. But he does do tons and tons of charity work straight across the board. He donates a lot of money. He donates his time. He donates his people, his workers to promote charities and help out with many charitable organizations throughout the country, throughout the world for that.
Yeah.
And I take my hat off to him and the McMahon family for that.
Yeah, I mean, it's the wrestling business, as we mentioned earlier, it's such a taxing business all round, and even for someone like Vince McMahon, who for doing this consistently for like 40, nearly essentially
His father before
nearly
him,
20 years.
his whole family, that's all he's done, pretty much.
Yeah, and I think he's definitely taken, or he took professional wrestling and he took it on and completely, turned it up
Global.
on its head. Yeah, he turned it into a global.
He's got a vision and he ran with it. Nobody else did that before him. And fault him or like him or hate him, he's the first person who made wrestling a household name throughout the country, throughout the world. Look what he does in Saudi Arabia now. Look at these big pay-per-views he does. Look at, all over the world. He's known and recognized in all the content and all the shows they film every week and month. And they got their own network and everything. I mean, you know how many hours and hours of tapes you got to have for that? That's crazy.
Oh, it's ridiculous. It's insane though. But you mentioned the Saudi Arabia show, and like the last time they had a Saudi Arabia show, you as a security expert would probably attest to this, that there was rumor that they were holding the WWE roster, or the Saudi government or Saudi prince were holding them hostage.
It probably is true. I mean, I've heard some stories about that, but when it comes to big money like that, and and it's they can work it out, and I don't know what they did wrong or what they did right or what made them upset, but they have some type of big relationship there, because these guys want to keep coming out of retirement to work these big shows and get these big $1 million paydays for one shot a year. So
it's crazy though. It's just
I'm sure they worked everything out, but it's scary. I wrestled in Pakistan once. I went to Pakistan in the morning, and I got stuck in a town called Multan in Pakistan. We wrestled in Karachi, Lahore, and Multan in these soccer stadiums, outdoor arenas. I was over there with the Samoans, S.D. Jones, Mr. Haiti, Jose Luis Rivera, myself, Bialo the Giant. There was like 16 of us that went. And I got stuck there for 3 weeks. And believe me, we stayed at this Pearl Intercontinental Hotel. They had armed guards there with machine guns and all these assault weapons to guard our hotels. So I'd never take anything for granted. Some of these third world countries, and I've been all over the world: Philippines, Singapore, Japan, South America, Puerto Rico, Bahamas, you name it. I haven't been to Africa, but Germany, Austria, France, Italy, and I thank God every day that I live in the United States and that we have our freedoms, and I don't have to live with armed guards outside my door.
Yeah, I feel the same way about living in Australia. I'd much rather live in peace and yeah, it is. It's like very blessed to live in places like this, because some countries, they don't have it as nice, and pretty much live in a dictatorship. But what was it like for you, obviously heading over when you're in Japan, wrestling over there? Was that the first time that you were sort of wrestling people where English wasn't their first language?
Pretty much, yes. Japan, I mean, they brought me over for the tag league tournament, and it was like such an honor, because that's one of the biggest tournaments in Japan. And who's who of wrestling was there? Like Dick Beyer, the Destroyer. He was wrestling over there. Abdullah, Dory Funk Jr., Stan Hansen, Giant Baba, Andre the Giant, British Bulldogs, Steve Williams and Terry Gordy were a tag team, Danny Spivey, Al Perez, me and Johnny Ace, the Youngbloods, Chris and Mark Youngblood. There was just such an array of talent there, and I hope I didn't leave a lot of people out of the 91 tag tour, but I mean, wrestling against, Masawa, Kawada, Kabashi, Kikuchi, Jumbo Saruda, Taue. Some of these guys were like world-class wrestlers. And, I used to look up to them and read about them and, see them in the magazines and watch film on them. And, I said, I pray one day I get to Japan and Stan Hansen made my dream come true to go to Japan and wrestle. And they treat you with so much respect there, and you're like rock stars over there. It's not like the
Mm.
United States where they look down on the wrestlers, or you're treated like a god over there. They would have sponsors. They take you out for dinner. They buy you gifts. Like I got some fan gave me a Sony Walkman when they first came out. Um, it was really really nice. They took me to this guy called Joe the Pearl Man. I bought my wife pearls, like a pearl necklace, pearl
Yeah.
earrings. They would take us, and we would get great discounts and stuff like that at different stores when we would shop. So it was like an honor to go there, and it was my honor to be there and wrestle in front of the Japanese people.
And how did you find wrestling against the Japanese guys? Did any of them speak English, or was it very little
A little
broken
bit. Well,
English?
the referee would translate a little bit in the ring, and
Mm.
you go over some high spots, in the back and stuff. Go over your match a little bit, but pretty much you just call it in the ring and do it. You're just doing,
Feeling it out.
feeling it out a little bit, and the finish, and when you go home, the referee, it's the same like in the States, when it's time to go home and stuff. But, they let me work over there. They wouldn't tell me what to do. I could do whatever I wanted there as long as the matches looked good. And that, I wasn't like handcuffed, like, how the WWF, okay, you got 5 minutes, do this, and this, and done. But over
Yeah.
there, I got to work and I got to learn my craft a lot better. And it was a great time. And I just loved Japan so much. That's probably my most favorite territory that I ever worked was Japan.
Yeah. And how many tours of Japan did you end up doing? Was
I
it just
only
a
went on
tag?
2 tours, but I was there like 3 and 4 weeks at a time. So, it was like we were there a month
Good
at a time
stints.
usually. But it was great. I mean, the guys that I went over with, we had a great crew with us. It was a great tour, and we made money. And I got to wrestle the Dynamite Kid in his last match at Korakuen Hall. Me and Johnny
Oh
Ace
wow.
wrestled against the Bulldogs, and I put Dynamite over, and it was a good feeling, and it was just like an honor to do that for him, who gave so much of his life to the wrestling business. So it was
Mm.
an honor for me to put him over and do the
Do
job
the
for him.
honors.
Yeah, the honor.
And what was it like working with Dynamite and Bulldog? Were they sort of pretty good guys to work with, or was
They're
it,
good guys to work with, but the stories you heard about them was all true. They were ribbers, and I felt so bad for Terry Taylor when I was with WWF. They used to ruin his $1,000 suits and everything. They would take a razor blade and cut his suit, and when he put his pants on, the suit would fall off, or they cut him up
oh,
into thin things, and they look like Beetlejuice. His pants were all shredded up, and just crazy stuff they would do. And they halcyon people put sleeping pills in their beers, and they'd fall asleep. And they just
Jesus.
shave their eyebrows. They take the razor and cut their eyebrows off. And if you fall asleep on the airplane, they would do that too. They'd get a little trimmer out of their little case and buzz your eyebrow. And,
That's crazy.
cut a piece off your hair. You'd have a strip line out of your head. So I
But
knew not to fall asleep around them. I was pretty smart.
that's the thing. Like, there's no way in today's world of wrestling would any of that be tolerated.
They got away with so much stuff, and thank God we didn't have cell phones back then, because
Yeah.
we'd all probably been in a lot of trouble.
From the stories I've heard, I can imagine how much trouble. But it just comes down to different times. Like mainly you see this generation of superstar is, more of like the video game, the millennial type. Happy
Yeah,
to sit there. But do, and I think as well, what they have now, obviously from years later, is they have much more how to recover quickly from after the matches, after you training, the different sort of supplements, and then having like physical trainers and doctors and all this sort of staff on hand to sort of revitalize you after a match and get you sort of, what I mean, like, I think technology has evolved where it's evolved
it
pro
really
wrestling
has.
with
There's
technology.
energy drinks, and now they have the performance centers and stuff. Like AEW has one up with Cody Rhodes up in Atlanta. Glacier's helping train guys there, and Diamond Dallas Page and a couple of these other old timers are helping train people there. And then down in Orlando with the WWE Performance Center, I mean, they
Mm.
never had any of that. You had to get guys from territories. They would take the top guys from different territories and bring them into events. And, like Ultimate Warrior came in, and Hercules Hernandez, and and then when they had like Mid-South when they brought in Jim Duggan and Ted DiBiase into WWF. Randy Savage left his dad's promotion to come in, with Vince. So he was handpicking people, Kamala from Mid-South.
Yeah.
So they were bringing in people from all over the country to wrestle at all these places. They were just, handpicking who they wanted, and that's, it worked for them. When I was with WWF, they were running 3 to 4 shows a night all over the country. They would do high school gyms, they would do colleges, they would do big arenas. And they were just crisscrossing all over the place, and every place was packed. We would have sellouts at every show back in the
That's
80s, 87, 88, 89.
yeah.
So it
And
was
it's
a
just
great place to learn.
yeah. I mean, wrestling just was on such a high demand in that time in the 80s, wasn't it? It was just,
It was
it,
great. You kind of like, share a car with somebody that cut expenses, share hotels. You were living out of a hotel room every night. So all you were doing was sleeping 3, 4, 5 hours tops, showering and going to the next town. So you didn't need your own hotel room when, you could get a double beds or something. You roommate, you need a good roommate. I used to roommate with Barry Horowitz or the Conquistadors, Jose Luis Rivera, Jose Estrada. Um,
yeah.
Nikolai Volkov, Boris Zukov. I mean, these guys taught me how to save money, these old timers, And when you double up, share a car with somebody, you get 2, 3 guys in the car, everybody chips in $20, and, you get a Lincoln Town car, you ride in style. Instead of paying $80 by yourself, you're paying $20, and it was worth it, splitting the expenses, and that's how you save money. The key to wrestling is bringing as much money home as you can.
Oh,
Saving.
100%. And that's the thing. It's like you're in the business to make money, not, come out.
Exactly, not to blow it.
Yeah.
Jake Roberts and those guys, they used to, they were top guys and they were making big money, but they were staying at the Marriott hotel paying $200-300 a night. When Sonny Beach and Barry Horowitz are at the Motel 6 spending $39 and splitting it, each paying $20 each. So, we weren't making a Jake Roberts or Hulk Hogan money, we were making, prelim money.
Yeah. No, exactly.
Like they call it enhancement talent.
And we go into your career in the UWF and working for Herb Abrams, and everyone's obviously seen, or a lot of people have seen the documentary on the UWF and
Dark
Herb
Side of the
Abrams
Ring.
from Dark Side of the Ring. How did you get involved with Herb and UWF?
Well, I lived in New York, in Brooklyn, New York at the time when Herb first started out. And John Arizzi, he's got a wrestling talk show, Pro Wrestling Spotlight. He was one of the first people to bring in the wrestling conventions to New York and stuff like that, the fan meet and greet, the fan weekends where they put a ring in the convention hall, have matches, have meet your favorite wrestlers, take pictures with them, buy wrestling memorabilia, magazines, figurines, whatever. Back then, this was like the late 80s. So John put all this stuff together, and Herb came in from California, and he wanted to, start meeting some talent. And there was a lady, Georgianne Metropolis. She had a wrestling chatterbox, and she was great friends with Bruno Sammartino. And Bruno told Herb about me because he knew me from the WWF. And I met Bruno several times at some independent shows and stuff. And I was wrestling a lot with Mick Foley, Cactus Jack. We were doing a lot of independents up and down the East Coast when UWF was first starting out. So they wanted to bring me and Mick Foley, and then Mick went out to California and did a couple of TV tapings. He told him about me, and then we started. I met with Herb, and Herb hired me right on the spot in New York at a convention. So then they said, we're going to start filming at the Pennsylvania Hotel in New York. I want you to be one of my big baby faces. I said, all right. So we started wrestling. They started putting me over. Then about 8 months, a year into it, he started tagging me with this guy, Steve Wild Thing Ray, and we came up with a tag team, Wet and Wild. We started doing we did the Black Beach Brawl down in Bradenton, Florida, where me and Steve Ray wrestled against Cactus Jack and Bob Orton Jr. And John Tolis was in the ring, a shark cage above the ring. And we did a couple other pay-per-views, Blackjack Brawl out in Vegas, where I wrestled this guy, Dr. Feelgood, with Missy Hyatt, and beat him out there and won the MGM Grand Championship, WWF. And Herb was big on titles. I mean, everything he wanted a title for, from midgets to the women to MGM Grand. Whoever would sponsor a pay-per-view, he'd make up a title like the MGM Championship or Sports Channel America championship because we were on Sports Channel America. So he wanted to have a nice TV championship. Steve Dr. Death Williams was one of the first champions. Him, Bam Bam Bigelow, the Killer Bees, Brian Blair, Jim Brunzell, Don Morocco. We had a very good array of talent. He was building a lot of younger talent. The Power Twins were a good tag team. He was bringing in a lot of people, and he just, let some of his addictions, get the best of him.
Mm.
And Herb had a great vision, and I think he really could have made it, but he needed a little bit more funding and a little bit more back office to lead him in the right direction to really make a difference in the wrestling business.
Yeah, I mean, it just seems like he was a big party guy.
He was.
That came into that had some money and loved wrestling, and I think it's partying and wrestling just over the years you've seen it just goes hand in hand, doesn't it?
It doesn't work, believe me, it doesn't work.
No, it doesn't, and you've seen that over the world has seen that over the years.
I mean, Piers, look at how many guys that aren't with us right now that wrestled with me back in the 80s. Kamala just passed away. All these guys, dying at young ages, 70 years or younger. A lot of them, some of the guys were homeless, living out of a suitcase, or, they're living in shelters. Some guys, the drugs, suicide. It's just, we never had a union. We never had benefits, health benefits. Some of these guys, they're still living the dream. They still think they could still wrestle in their 50s and 60s, and then they get in the ring and they have a heart attack or a stroke or, get hurt, and then they can't work their day job, and then they get divorced and their wife takes all their money and they don't see their kids. The wrestler of the movie, that hits home for a lot of the guys because that's very realistic. That's very realistic. I told Mickey Rourke when I saw him, I said, you hit a nail on the head when you guys did this movie. I said, because there's so many guys that, like the character you played in that movie, that are living this thing every day like you did in the movie. It's pretty factual.
It's crazy though, because let me ask you this: do you think that the bigger promotions that have the funding to do this should really try and help get these guys? As you look at professional wrestlers, they're anywhere between, like in WWE or AEW, anywhere between the age of 19 to say 40. As the main roster, should they really be looking at putting things in place like having life coaches there for the guys that can say, okay, this is what you should do. You're earning X amount of money, which is more money than the average person earns in a lifetime. You're earning in 1 year. This is how you invest your money. This is how you know what I mean? Like, do you think that they have that, or do you think that they should have that?
They need that. I mean, I was smart enough where I would save half my paycheck. I would put it right in my savings every month. But what happens is you get taxed on everything. People don't understand if you're making $1 million a year, you're probably only going to make like 400,000 after taxes and expenses and everything else. So you better save for a rainy day. You better buy that house and pay for it, or make sure you have something to fall back on. Get a Roth IRAs, or get some of these insurances, whole life insurances, where you put money away every month that goes to your retirement and stuff like that. Have a plan, and that's what I did with my security company. I had a plan when I got out of wrestling. I knew that I had to work the next 20 years really hard to save my money. I bought a couple of homes. I bought some investment properties, so I'm going to be okay when I retire. But some of these other guys, they don't even have money for a funeral. I see all these GoFundMe pages, pay for a funeral for the guy that, wrestled his whole life and made millions of dollars wrestling. One of the top guys, look at Kamala, God rest his soul.
Yeah.
This guy was a main event, sold out more arenas than half the guys in our business. Had programs with Hogan down in Mid-South. I mean, made a lot of money. Through his later years, he got sick and got diabetes and lost his legs and everything else. And then he dies of COVID-19, 72 years old. And Chris Jericho, he's been helping out all these guys that pass away and giving money towards their funerals and funeral expenses, or helping guys out that are in the hospital. And God bless him. He's one of the angels in our business. He's one of the great guys in the business, and I can't say enough good things about Chris Jericho. Like him or not, this guy puts his money where his mouth is. He's got a big heart, and he does the right thing. Some of these other guys that have made a lot of money, they don't do anything. They sit back and count their money. But even Vince could put some money away, or maybe have some meet and greets at WrestleManias and bring some of these big older guys out, give them a little payday, 15, 20 grand, to help them out throughout the year or something. That's nothing to him. He makes
Mm.
that one show in merchandise alone.
Oh, plus, you know what I mean? Like it's
It's a sponsor. It's just a TV revenue. you know Give back a little bit, help these people. And he's helped people, the people that get in trouble doing drugs and stuff, or get hooked on painkillers, or the girl Sunny, and some of these other people. He's paid for rehabs to help people out. Raise
that's
real
part
money.
of it. That's part of their thing is like if you ever need to go to a drug or alcohol rehabilitation, WWE covers the bill.
A lot of times he has covered the bill. He does try to help out, and he's not a bad guy. People got him like he's the Antichrist. But
Mm.
after people use and abuse him and hold him up for more money, and play games, you get tired of all the BS. And he spent his money to take WWF where it is today. You got to look at it as a business standpoint too, as a businessman. That nobody gave him any money. He spent his own hard-earned money, and he put his time in. And if anybody knows Mr. Matt, he doesn't sleep much. He's constantly working, working, working. He's a workaholic. He's
Yeah.
very hands-on with everything. So he took it to the next level, and you can't fault the guy for making his business successful.
And you know what? That's the thing. You mentioned that he's not a bad guy. He's not, and he's definitely not. But in a world of professional wrestling, you can't be. You mentioned before. He said to you, "You're too nice in this business." You know what I mean? Like and from all stories that I've heard, you have to be a little bit of a prick in the pro wrestling business to survive.
You do. And Mr. Wrestling too, Johnny Walker told me, he goes, if somebody tells you to do something you don't want to do it, you don't have to do it. Nobody's putting a gun to your head. He also told me, and I didn't understand this when he first told me this, and I tell this story all the time in conventions and talk shows and everything. He told me, if you have a long career in wrestling, he goes, you're going to count on one hand how many good friends you have when you retire in this business. And right now, I could probably count on my hand how many 5 guys that I keep in touch with, like Stan Hansen, Barry Horowitz, Haku, the Power Twins. I talk to Mick Foley once in a while. So there's a Vito, Big Vito. There's a handful of guys that I talk to that I consider friends, decent friends. Boris Zukov's a good guy. Nikolai Volkov, when he was alive, great guy. So, I mean, there's only a handful of people that I really, would trust, or, have them come to my house, or, interact with them.
Yeah, and I think that's not just in the world of pro wrestling, but that's in life as well. I find, you know what I mean. Like I find, like I'm the same. I can count on one hand how many close friends that I have, and still have a couple of fingers left over. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like I'm talking like real friends. You know what I mean? Like not just people that
they're going to battle for you. If you call them up at midnight and your car broke down, when they come out of their house and come get you.
Yeah, like the sort of thing going, hey man, yeah, like you call them up, hey, I need a shotgun and a shovel, and they're just like, all right, where do
I meet you?
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. That's the closeness of friends, and I think that's just in life as well, obviously from the pro wrestling, but I think from now, you look at how the world is. That's the way I sort of perceive it. It's like I've known a lot of people, I've been friends with lots of people, but the real friends you can always count on that one hand.
You're right, Piers.
But moving on, so we're now up to the stage of the show where that's right, ladies and gentlemen, is guess the Aussie slang. So I've sat down with Sandy earlier. I have pre-warned him of this game, and Sandy, you've been to you were supposed to come out to Australia. You were saying earlier.
I was supposed to do an Australian Wonderland tour with the IWA with Rob Russin, and he had Paul Orndorff, Kamala, a bunch of those guys go over, and I didn't make the cut, I guess. Or I might have had another tour or something booked. There was some thing that I couldn't go, but I was set to go and I wanted to go, but I never made it to Australia yet. It's on my bucket list. I still want to go sooner than later. Have a nice Foster trip on the Barbie.
Mate, no one drinks Fosters in Australia. Like you can't even find that at the liquor shop. No,
really?
Mate, I've never had a Foster's in my life.
What's the main beer in Australia that I should be drinking?
Oh man, you know what? There's many different ones. There's like Coopers, Tui's, 4X. It just depends on the flavor that you like. Yeah, I am too. I am a beer connoisseur. I will teach you how to drink beer, sir.
Piers, we're gonna have to have a share beer together one day.
Absolutely, but we'll get into the Australian slang game. So the first word I'm going to say is dead set, and I'll use it in a sentence for you, Sonny. So you tell me what this dead set means in Australian. So, are you dead set?
Dead set. I would say it means is your mind made up on something?
Yeah, like are you sure? Like you're
Dead set on
telling me the
something
truth?
like your mind's made up. I'm sure that I want to continue wrestling.
Absolutely. Okay, so here's another one. Hey, Sonny, you want a durry, mate?
A dairy mate.
Durry. Would you like a durry, mate? So
Is that
durry
like a
is the
candy
word.
bar?
No, it's a cigarette.
A cigarette.
So we call
Oh, I
the
don't
cigarettes
smoke.
they call durries. That's okay. All right. Oh, mate, that bloke is acting like a dead set galah. Galah.
Galar.
Yeah.
That guy's an asshole.
Yep. So it's like well, a galah is an Aussie. It was an Australian like cockatoo. So a galah like makes a lot of like now like loud noise like there's someone who's loud, obnoxious.
Like a wanker.
Yeah, exactly, like a wanker. All right. Hey mate, just up here, Chucky Huey and come back. Chucky Huey.
Chucky Huey?
Chucky Huey.
Is that like you're gonna get sick and come back?
No, it means you got to do a U-turn and come back.
Chucky Huey. Okay.
Yeah.
I don't think
No,
I would do
what?
too good in Australia.
It's all right. We're getting back there. Okay, here's another one. Wuckers. No
Walkers?
wuckers, mate. Yeah, wuckers. No wuckers, mate.
Walker's mate.
No wuckers, mate.
Walker's mate.
No,
Don't
it's just
understand,
wuckers.
maybe?
Sorry?
I don't understand. Does it mean I don't understand Walker's mate?
No, so wucker is like when you say wucker, it's kind of like for worries. So when you say no wuckers, you're saying like no worries. It's a very Australian way to say it. Yeah, so like it's a very Australian way to say it. All right. Hey, mate, you want to come over to my house and drink some piss?
Yes. Hey, mate, friend, come over and have some beers.
Yeah, that's exactly right. So we'll go a couple more. Oh, mate, me mate over here, he's a dead set root rat.
Rude rat? Somebody
Root
else rude?
rat. No,
Somebody else
root.
rude?
Root. 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 Root rat.
Root rat. Wow. Root rat. Somebody that likes vegetables?
No, it's someone who's addicted to sex, like someone who's all like, you got a mate that's always on the hunt for women. That's what you call a root rat. Yeah. All right. So, oh, mate, I'm rooted.
You're tired?
Yeah, tired or broken.
Okay.
All right. So I've got another couple for you. So this is a two. This is all right. This is a three-parter, right?
Gotcha.
Okay. So there's three words: franger, old fella, and slapper. Okay.
Fringer, old fella, and slapper?
Yeah. Hey, Sonny, you got a franger that I can put on me old fella? I've just picked up a slapper.
Oh, you're looking for a condom to put on a rubber for a hooker.
Close. So I'm looking for a rubber to put on my old fella, which is my old fella.
Johnson.
Yeah, my Johnson. And I just picked up a slapper. So a slapper is like a word for a girl who's
Pretty
very
cheap
relaxed.
and easy.
Yeah, exactly. Pretty
I
cheap
knew what
and
you were
easy.
saying on that one. I knew. I think that's the universal language.
Exactly. Hey, mate, would you like a stubby holder for your drink?
Stubby holder. Is that a koozie? Like something to keep your drink cold?
Yep. You're getting good at this one. Hey, skull this, mate.
Hey, drink this or taste it?
No, skull means to chug it. So when you take a drink, you got to skull the whole thing. So yeah. All right. So
I used to be a chugger, but I'm getting old now. I can't chug. I sip them now.
oh man, I can't do it either. All right. So we got one more. We'll go for whoop whoop
Whoop whoop.
whoop whoop.
Is that like yelling at?
I'll put in a sentence. Bloody hell, we're in the middle of whoop whoop.
you're in the middle of having sex. Whoop whoop.
No, it means it's actually a lot more innocent than that. It means we're in the middle of nowhere. We're nowhere. Like
Oh,
the car's
okay.
broken down in the middle of whoop whoop.
I thought like you were doing whoopee, like whoop whoop.
No, not at all, not at all. But look, Sonny, that's been the Aussie slang game, and that has been Shooting the Shit Uncensored. Thank you so much for being a guest on today's show.
Piers, you're a gentleman and a scholar. Thank you so much, and I hope I get to Australia to meet you in person one day. Or if you're ever in New York, please look me up, and I'll take you for some good beers in New York.
Oh, hell yeah. You know that's going to happen. And I definitely hope so. As soon as this COVID stuff is cleared up, we'll definitely make that happen.
Well, you guys stay healthy, everybody. And hopefully, the wrestling will come back and bigger and better than ever. And I appreciate being on your show. So hang 10 with Sunny Beach, baby. Woo!
That's it, guys. And once again, you can find all of our sponsors, Signal Studios and A-Rock Designs on Facebook. Also, if you do want to buy some merchandise, head down to prowrestlingtees.com/MWA World. The banner's been running across the bottom of the show. But, guys, thank you very much. Sonny, it's been great. And we'll catch you next time, guys.
Thank you, Piers. Have a nice weekend.
Same to you, sir.
Cheers.